Welcome back. Let's get more now on news breaking in the last hour. And the Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, has been jailed for 2.5 years. A Moscow court decided he's violated probation terms. He was arrested last month after recovering from a nerve agent poisoning he blames on the Kremlin. Countries, including the UK, the US and Germany, have already condemned Navalny's jailing. Vladimir Ashurkov is an ally of Navalny and a director of the Anti-Corruption Foundation, and he joins us now. Thank you for being with us. First of all, what is your reaction to the sentence?
Well, the sentence was not unexpected, but it still came as a shock that the same people, the authorities who ordered poisoning of Alexei Navalny a few months ago, they would, on totally falsified charges, put him into prison.
How will people on the streets react, do you think? There have been these protests over the last weeks. How will they react, do you think?
I think the anger on the streets will only increase. It was such a blatant mockery of justice, what we witnessed over the last 2 weeks when Navalny came to Russia, was detained in a makeshift court, and the decision today, it's really, I think, will get many people agitated, and we'll see continuation of protests and turmoil more so than what we've seen over the last 2 weeks.
He went back of his own accord. He knew he would be arrested. He may well have known that he would get a prison sentence. What would be legally the next move? Is he likely to appeal?
Of course, he will appeal. It will take about from 1 month to 2 months.
And I mean, the chances of being successful with that appeal, given how the authorities seem to want to quieten him, what do you make of that?
Well, the decisions is not made in the courtroom. It's made in the Kremlin, and in the same place where the decision to poison him was made, the decision to start new proceedings against him, and the decision that we have seen and witnessed today to put him in jail for 2.5 years.
And Vladimir, have you managed to speak to him recently at all?
I spoke with him a few days before he boarded the plane to Moscow, but not after he was already in Russia and he was immediately in detention.
And judging from people you may have spoken to who have been with him, what's his state of mind? What is he? How is he?
Well, we have seen the video footage from today's court hearing. It was really heartbreaking when the verdict was announced. He was drawing a heart aimed at his wife, Yulia, who was there in the courtroom. He maintains good spirits in these awful circumstances, and he knows that the game is long, and he knows that this sentence is a sign of weakness of Russian authorities, when with all their power, they're sentencing one male to jail, and he knows that he will prevail eventually.
And how worried do you think President Putin is by the protests that are happening in many Russian cities?
I think it's irrational, but we've seen by the presence of police in many big cities in Russia, by the severe beatings, by the fact that over 7,000 people were detained last Sunday during the mass protests, and the protests were totally peaceful. Not a single policeman was harmed. So I think he is quite concerned, and he feels that he is vulnerable.
And they're clearly coordinated, the protests. Are you helping coordinate them? I mean, how are they being coordinated?
Well, of course, our organization, we have branches in different Russian cities. So we take the lead to coordinate where people gather and what's the route. But, you know, no coordination can bring tens of thousands of people to the streets. It's when people feel injustice, when people feel offended by this mockery of justice, they naturally take to the streets.
Is there one problem that the protests could end up playing to an extent into President Putin's hands, in that many Russians fear chaos and instability, and Putin, I suppose, could portray, you know, the chaos as being as a result of protests?
The chaos and instability that may follow are totally the result of the actions of the authorities. They could have handled this much more subtly, and they could have let the political opposition to have presence in the political system, but they decided to close all the lids on the kettle, and inevitably it's going to boil and blow up. And unfortunately, there will be chaos because of the actions of the authorities.
Okay, just a minute left. I mean, you seem to suggest that you fear a stronger crackdown or greater repression.
It's possible. We have seen escalation of violence over the last few days, over the last two protests on the last weekends. We don't know what's going to happen, but for sure the level of discontent among the people, of course, is going to only grow.
Okay, Vladimir Ashurkov, we appreciate your time. I should just ask you, I mean, last 10 seconds, I mean, do you fear for your own safety, your own life?
I feel much safer in London than I was in Moscow. My heart goes to people who are now detained and beaten in Russia and are sentenced, like Alexei, to long sentences. But we know that Russian security services, if they decide something, they can make assassinations in any part of the world. So I'm always cautious.
Okay, well, Vladimir Ashurkov, thank you very much for joining us.